We want to thank Kate DeVinny, the director of the Great Barrington Library, and the whole library staff for making this possible for us. It's really quite an amazing experience. And if you would please, at the beginning, turn off your phones if you haven't yet done that. Take a minute. If there is any problem hearing us, last time both of us have read in this room before, and sometimes when it's more crowded, audibility becomes an issue. So please, notify us by raising your hand if you have trouble hearing. We are planning, kind of in the middle of the reading, to take a few minutes out to give you an opportunity to ask questions and make comments so that you don't have to listen to us nonstop all afternoon. And then we'll go back and do more reading and more conversing, and at the end we'll have another opportunity for questions and comments if time permits. So I hope that all flows. And with that, Joan Embree.
And not to scare you, it's not all afternoon.
No!
That's okay. Susie and I have both lived with our families in the Berkshires for over 30 years, would you say? And I moved here with my then husband and with little children and a pack of dogs, and I don't know what the word is for a pack of cats, a kindle of cats, to the Berkshires from Washington, D.C. And my husband, we moved here so he could open or begin a new political magazine in Albany. You might know it, it's still going, called the Empire State Report. And so we left humid, steamy, locust-infested D.C. in the wake of Watergate and Vietnam and all manner of wonderful and horrifying events, and ended up moving in this idyllic farmhouse, which is now part of next to the Rockwell Museum property. And my mother-in-law lived across the river in one of the so-called cottages, and which was kind of an illuminating thing for me because I come from relatively modest means, and so this cottage, South Main Farm, was, you pull into a circular drive with llamas in the meadows and peacocks streaking all over the rolling lawns, and my mother-in-law in a gold lame sheath, just like, and so the first dinner I sat next to her and she just kind of pulled my hair to make her passionate points every 2 minutes, and then took my hand and she wanted to Indian wrestle, and she slammed it down. She was strong, and she said, I knew you were pathetic. And so, no, I loved her. She was just eccentric. Right, Isabel? Your grandmother.
So the 70s were a time of sort of wildness everywhere, and in particular maybe in the Berkshires. We connected in around 80, 81. And that was because our children were both at BCD together, and so we knew each other as young mothers. And then a few years later, my son got his very first paying job bussing tables at the restaurant. You all remember Embree's restaurant that Joan ran with her brother in Housatonic? So that was his first job. And the folks at Embree's, not only Joan, but the whole staff, were so generous and also so clueless that they had no idea how the restaurant business was supposed to run. Consequently, at the end of the evening, the tips were divided up equally amongst the bartender, the waiters, and the 14 14-year-old little punk, my son who was clearing the table, so he would come home at the end of the day with like $80 or $90 in his pocket. So he loved Joan. He thought Joan was just the cat's meow. And so much so that many years later, 15 years after that, and also knowing her to be a great cook, he hired her to cater his wedding, which was on our lawn in Great Barrington. So that's the context in which we've known each other, mothers, cook, restaurant owner, no idea, clueless that each of us were writing all this time until about 4 or 5 months ago, we both surfaced at IWOW, which, if you don't know, is Inwards, Outwards, the open mic that Deb Kaufman hosts in Housatonic, first Tuesday of every month. And I went in there in fear and trembling. I can't speak for you, but maybe also a little bit of fear and trembling. And all of a sudden, there we were reading in front of people. And at the end of the evening, we went up to greet each other, and we both kind of went, who knew? We just had no idea that that was something that the other person was carrying around with him. So that's sort of the spirit in which this afternoon of reading and engaging with one another and with you was designed. And Joan is going to begin with her beautiful story, The Iron Rabbit.
I'm a yellow iron rabbit with bright red eyes and tall stand-up ears. Many years ago, my boy, I call him mine because he found me lying on my side in the stream. He looked down on me with his gray-green eyes and he brought me home. My boy grew up and moved out west, leaving me behind on the gleaming floor in his mother's offbeat, tidy house, amid her collection of stone and cast faux animals such as myself, but he will always be mine. I like my static life. You couldn't pay me all the make-believe carrots in the world to be a human being. I've seen the roller coaster ride they call life, watched their enduring commitment to suffering and fits of destructiveness. Take my boy's mother. She had a lot going for her when she was young, free-spirited as she was, but she had this constant companion staunchly by her side who went by the name of fear, drawing her out of bed each morning and riding the tides of her blood, imbuing her with premonition and regret. From my fixed vantage point over the years, I've witnessed her misguided boldness, dragging her to the edge of the abyss time and again, which is why, thank you very much, I'm not sorry one bit to be a doorstop. Take 200 acres of hay fields, deep woods, barns, Indian paintbrush, the winding river. A low-ceilinged white farmhouse not tidy in its corners, ice trappings like claws jeering inside the windows, snow burrowing up floorboards, wind blustering through light switches, a furnace banging and snorting to no avail. Take my boy's mother peeling onions with her gloves on in the icy kitchen. Take his father, not often around, his ambitions too slack to contain his demons, his mind bent, his well-built body moving in accord with ice cubes clicking into a glass, fear whispering into the mother's ear. My boy has a beautiful sister with the hair the color of sweet white corn and eyes the color of chocolate. When she was little, she ran around in her mother's discarded lingerie, a rhinestone tiara, and high red-top sneakers. She was often mean to my boy because he followed her everywhere and drove her crazy. But in her good heart, she knew he loved her in his toddling, stumbling way. One day they raced across the hay fields, the sun fine on their faces, arms flung wide, embracing the open sky, until they came to a stream running off the river. On the other side of it slouched a one-room abandoned cottage with a green roof and shutters. My boy and his sister often entered it to look for treasures left behind. but all they ever found were broken shards of china. That is until my boy found me in the stream. I must have once lived in that cottage. How I ended up in the stream is a mystery. My boy dragged me by my ears across the fields, past the blue Berkshire hills, undulating like prehistoric beasts along the horizon, up the winding driveway and back to the house. I weighed almost as much as he did, as he was only 3 years old. After his mother divorced my boy's father, she married another man. I felt frightened for her, my boy, and his sister. You didn't have to be a living creature to know that man was bad. Insentient objects feel more than you think. Stones have souls. Once when my boy was 11, he came home from school in a wilted state. His lips were white and cracked, his complexion waxen. The stepfather had moved into my boy's house and acted like he owned the place. My boy was suddenly alarmed because he couldn't breathe. Put him in a cold shower, he'll be fine, don't baby him, the stepfather said. It was a January 20 below zero ice storm night, and his mother drove my boy to the emergency ward, just the two of them alone on the road in the raw blackness. All the way to the hospital, his mother longed for my boy's real father. They nearly slid off the road into a ditch. My boy spent hours in an oxygen tent. I may be an iron rabbit, but that night my heart fell from my chest and shattered like a teacup into a million shards onto the gleaming floor. My boy is so far away now, is an exceptional man, that much I know. I also know the earth absorbs finally all things put upon it, dust to dust, all matter cast over with horrid immortality, moss and mold. Me and my boy destined to be together again. But for now, I'll sit transfixed, my long ears pricked optimistically for any outbursts of joy, my red eyes steadfast in their devotion to witnessing little moments, to watch my boy's mother, diminished yet iron-willed, holding hands with her sidekick Fear as she ventures forth, a practiced warrior, season after season, out into the fraught world.